Preparing for Memory Master is a huge undertaking. We reached out to some of our friends who know a thing or two about becoming a Memory Master and asked for their best advice. Whether you're new to the memorization conversation or on your 7th tour, here are some tips we hope will help you on your journey. As always, it's best to start by defining our terms. So let's begin there. What is a Memory Master?
It's like where you memorize a whole bunch of stuff. Memorize the entire cycle of CC.
All 24
and
weeks.
It is a lot of work, too.
Yeah, and all 7 subjects. You go through testing with your parents twice, with your tutor once, and you do all of the memory work from all the weeks. And then as a celebration at the end, you just do about 25% of it with your director. I have enjoyed redeeming my own education, as we say in CC. Just kind of knowing in the timeline where things are. And I love how our timeline integrates the biblical history along with the world history. And that's just helped me, whether it's in Bible study or trivia or like in the math, just the mentally being able to put things together, multiply things. Or one piece of memory work as a cook I really appreciate is the teaspoons and tablespoons week. Until I started CC, I was always curious how many teaspoons go in a tablespoon and how many tablespoons in an ounce.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know it. I knew that they related, but until we got to that week, I couldn't do it in my brain. And now it's in my brain and it helps so much.
Now that we know what it is, let's talk about the why behind it. Why would anyone want to do Memory Master? And is it actually useful after you finish foundations?
My friends were doing Memory Master a lot. And so I was just like, okay, maybe I should try this.
Yeah, and I was told moms can do it too. And I thought, hey, I'm tutoring. I already am trying to learn this stuff. Let me just do that extra step and see if I can get Memory Master along with her.
I asked my friend Chris, who was a Memory Master when he was a child, the same question. And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, so when I think about the value of Memory Master, first we got to understand what is the point of foundations to begin with. The way that Classical Conversations lines up its curriculum, it starts with the 3 natural stages of trivium-like learning. And so you have the grammar, the dialectic, and the rhetoric. And the whole point of the Foundations program is to just dump grammar from every subject. If you think about going into any career field, into any sort of social environment, you enter into anything new, there's always a new code that you have to learn to apply yourself to be able to fit in with your peers. And so what Foundations is doing is kind of hacking learning by saying, instead of trying to understand everything now, because they're really little, they're really good at learning fast and learning information if it's interesting and it's presented in a creative way. And so it sort of hacks that side of your brain by offering all of this grammar to a student in fun ways, like singing songs. By doing that, you're setting yourself up to be able to understand things with more fullness in their entirety later on. I remember going through like different subjects way down the line and hearkening back to Foundations 10 years later and being like, oh, I know the connective, I know the different types of tissue. There's connective epithelial muscle and nerve, and that's relevant now. When I was 7, it wasn't, but now I understand what it means, and I understand why it's helpful to know that.
Then I remembered one of our CC alumni, Mason. Mason is actually a pilot, and I've heard him mention how useful being a Memory Master has been to him over the years.
It helped out a lot. I watched a lot of my friends kind of struggle with pacing themselves with their schoolwork and pacing themselves with their knowledge. And probably more than half of aviation is just the ground knowledge that you have to memorize. So the memory from aspect of Classical Conversations, I was a Memory Master for the 4 years that I was in Foundations, definitely helped. It was just crazy to see all my friends around me kind of struggling through these classes and stuff like that. And it made college super easy.
You can listen to the rest of that interview on the Refining Rhetoric podcast, and we'll link that for you below. Now that we know what and some of the reasons why it could be fun or helpful, let's talk about how it's done. After all, you can't just absorb all of those facts by accident, right?
What did we do?
I mean, we worked each week like a whole ton on all the memory work and all the new memory work, and we reviewed the old memory work too.
Yeah, something we would do is if there was a song like this semester, we're doing the prepositions. So we just always do the whole preposition song and add whatever we know.
I know the whole thing.
Even though we haven't gotten there, she's worked on the whole thing.
Like, we take one subject and we time ourselves, seeing how quickly we can get through. Like, let's say we're on week 5. We go through, like, all the stuff in week 5 in that one subject and see how fast we can do it.
And then once we get it in our minds, it's really easy to just work on it anywhere. So where are some places that we like to work on memory work?
In our car, like get it in line at an amusement park, stuff like that.
Or if we go on a walk, we can just shout out some of the memory work, sing some songs, just get it done in our everyday life. Do you really like to play piano? Can you talk about how you play piano and do your memory work?
I can like play the songs for the memory work and just sing along with it. And it's actually really fun to do that.
Yeah, well, you get to control what ones you're going to do next, and you just play it with your hands and you sing it with your mouth, and it's doing lots of things at once.
I like multitasking.
Here's another tip for memorizing.
So you think about memory, there's short-term memory and there's long-term memory, and you want to bridge the gap between them as quickly as you can. Your short-term memory is very limited in its scope. You can only hold a few things at a time. And so if you think about the game Simon Says, that's essentially how we learn. You basically take the first 2 beats, and at some point you don't think of them as distinct individual beats, but as a pairing of beats. If you're trying to learn a phone number, the more you can pair the digits together, the easier it's going to be to remember. And along with that, the more silly or ridiculous or outlandish or anything you can do to associate or connect with an idea, the more tangible it becomes. I remember doing a memory game with some friends and trying to memorize an entire deck of randomly sorted cards. And the way that we went through is as if we would assign different ideas or images to each card. So like the 2 of clubs became a toucan, like just little things like that. And then I'd picture them as I walked through my house. Like, oh, I put the first card there and the second card there and the third card there, and recite them to my friends. And so the same thing with foundations, it's a little less important because just the song is going to be enough to cue them back in to where they are. That's why we have music paired with the memory work, because eventually you can do it without the music, but for learning it, the music is invaluable.
I enjoy taking a deck of cards and flipping and just multiplying everything by 14 and practicing it over and over again that way. That's how I'm working on it.
Speaking of cards, I've heard of people using spatial memory to learn the timeline by placing the timeline cards all around their houses. Then when they're trying to remember the timeline in order, they simply picture themselves walking through their houses. I think that's brilliant. Think of the story of Simonides, who was able to identify the deceased guests of the banquet based on where they were sitting in the hall. This is where the term memory palace comes from. Another powerful tool is sense of smell.
If you're looking for a way to help improve the quickness with which your children learn new things, never underestimate what scent can do. The part of your brain that stores scent is right next to the part that stores long-term memory. And so it's very easy to muddy those two together. So as you're thinking of things to tie ideas onto and pegs to, like baking cookies, as simple as that sounds, while going through memory work will help to cement some of these ideas. Going out on a walk and smelling things in nature while talking about your memory work is enough to help tie some of these ideas to something tangible that later on they'll get get hit with the scent of a flower and be like, pi equals, they just immediately back to whatever the thing that they were taught was. It's really remarkable how quickly these different sections of your brain can tie and associate ideas together. And so if you're looking for ways to help them memorize and hold on to ideas, instead of focusing on specifically those ideas, look at the environment that you're presenting them in and say, how can I make this environment more approachable?
If someone was on the fence about doing Memory Master, what would you tell them?
No, I think there's a lot of value to doing Memory Masters. I know that personally, when I went through foundations, Memory Masters was like a challenge unto itself. Like, I think I got $10 if I made Memory Masters, which was massive when you're 5 years old. But by the time I was 11, the charm of the $7 or $10 or whatever had worn off. I wasn't as excited about it. And so because I, being an 11-year-old, saw no incentive or reward to it, I just didn't. My last year of foundations, I said, no, there's other things I want to focus on. And that's fine. I think that there are different stages for different sorts of things. And I want my kids to feel like there's something in it for them for learning all of this material. I don't want them to just, think they're trained monkeys, like, oh, I just recite all of this stuff because they make me. I want them to have a desire to do it, and it doesn't have to be for the sake of the information itself. That'll come later. I'm not worried about that. One day they're going to look back and be like, I'm so glad I know who Constantine is.
Do the work, do some extra work, and get stronger mentally, and just learn that you can rise up to the challenge.
Let's be honest, this video has way more than 5 good tips for becoming a memory master. My favorites were: do a little bit every day, use your senses, add some movement, leverage spatial memory, and work together. What are your favorite tips for memorization? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, remember that learning is a lifestyle, so be an everyday educator. We'll see you soon.